Hello, my name is Rinon and welcome to my guide for the second encounter in the 8th circle of Pandemonium Savage. This Savage exclusive Hephaestus boss fight focuses on two major set piece mechanics and features one of the coolest gimmicks in FF14 raiding history. I really love this boss and I hope you enjoy progging it too. This guide should help you efficiently progress and clear the encounter in a swift manner, and I believe these strats to be fairly party finder friendly. Let's get into it. The fight begins with a cast of Untitled. This is a heavy raid damage with a damage over time applied to the party. I just want to make a note, the auto attacks from the boss hit like a truck. Autos are also a 2-man tank stack, so both of your tanks need to be aware of this and position themselves accordingly to not catch one another out. Tyrant's Unholy Darkness is a tank buster on both tanks. Make sure you have the two tanks spread for this rather than remain stacked, and then come back together to continue receiving auto attacks safely. After this, Hephaestus will cast Natural Alignment. Two players will be debuffed, either 2 DPS or 2 support players. This debuff will cause a number of effects for those marked players. Firstly, they will receive a heavy dot for the duration of the buff, and it lasts a long time, so healers need to pay special attention to them. Secondly, if those two players are hit with any other mechanics, they will detonate and wipe the raid. Thirdly, the telegraphs for some upcoming mechanics will appear above those players' heads, so the rest of the raid really wants to ensure they have them in view. For now, have the group stack a little inside the boss hitbox and send those natural alignment players to the front of the arena together. As the boss begins to cast Twist Nature, you should see a stack and a spread marker with an empty progress bar appear above one of the two players' heads. Following this, a Tyrant's Flare cast will begin and one of the progress bars will begin filling. These progress bars dictate the order in which mechanics resolve, so if stack starts filling first, it will be stack then spread, and vice versa. When the Tyrant's Flame cast ends, puddles will drop under every player. If it is stack first, the party should move backwards to the edge of the boss hitbox. If it is spread first, players should spread, avoiding the north edge of the arena. The 2 debuff players can then just dodge left or right of their spot and then move back into position. Ashing Blaze will then cast, which is a half arena cleave. Make sure to move to the safe side and deal with the second of the spread or stack mechanics on the untouched half of the arena. It's really important to note that the 2 natural alignment players do not need to do these mechanics. Just stay out of the mess and enjoy the view from the front. Next up, the natural alignment players will once again show fire and ice with progress bars. Ice is going to hit the 2 closest players and must be taken in 3-man stacks. Fire will hit the 3 furthest players and must be taken in 2-man pairs. Alongside this, on the side of the arena, adds will spawn and shoot beams covering all of the rows of tiles except one. An easy rule of thumb is that one of the 2 front rows will always be safe for the first fire ice mechanic, and the other of the 2 front rows will always be safe for the second fire ice mechanic. I believe that the best way to deal with these fire and ice mechanics is actually not a strategy my group came up with, but one that Scripe made, so I want to give credit where credit is due by showcasing their strategy. The natural alignment players will be placed at the middle and the center edge of their safe tile. For ice, the 2 groups of 3 will be to the left and the right of middle, 1 square across. You can use the markings on the ground, specifically the edges of the squares, to position for this. All you need to do is make sure that one player is slightly inside the edge of the square, and the others are a tiny bit further out. For fire, 2 pairs take their fires on the exact same spots as where the ice stacks were taken, and the third group will need to position depending on the safe spot. If the safe spot is front row, they are all the way at the front to the wall. If the safe spot is second row, they will be at the back of the safe square. Tanks and healers go left, and DPS go right. When natural alignment starts, you can check whether it's tank healer marked or DPS marked. One player from the unmarked group will need to swap sides for the ice mechanic. Otherwise, every player has fairly fixed positions. It could even be macroed easily to give players mostly static spots. For fire, the non-natural alignment group takes the pair on their side and also the middle pair. After fire ice have both resolved, Iron Upper will cast once again, followed by auto attacks and another tank buster on the tanks. Following this, High Concept will begin to cast. This will require heavy mitigation and players will need to prepare for the first major set piece mechanic in the fight. I would recommend setting up markers the way my group does, as it's going to make positioning for this mechanic incredibly simple. Check your debuffs. You can either get a short 8-second alpha, beta or gamma, a longer 28-second alpha, beta or gamma, a yellow 2-man stack icon or a blue 3-man stack icon. Each player is going to get one of those debuffs. Short alpha goes to A, short beta goes to B, and short gamma goes to C. They will soon explode for massive AoEs and in the process obtain 3 elements above their head. On the northwest side of the arena, the 2 stack goes to the 2 marker, the 3 stack goes to the 3 marker. The long debuffs will now fill those stacks, with long alpha taking the northmost stack and beta gamma taking the other stack. Once these players are in these positions, the stacks and short alpha, beta, gamma will resolve. The short debuffs will each receive 3 colours above their heads and 2 towers will spawn. Check the colour of the towers, and if they correspond to one of the 3 colours on your head, run to the direct centre of the arena and stand still. 2 players should have this circumstance and be stacking on top of one another. After a few seconds, those 2 players will merge and create an animal concept. This will allow you to safely take those 2 towers without dying and continue the mechanic. For taking the towers, I recommend Alpha North, Gamma South and Beta Adjusts. Alongside this will be a half room cleave, so all players need to be aware. The long Alpha, Beta, Gamma will now go to their corners as well. One thing that is very important is making note of which of the short alpha, beta, gamma was unused in the first concept mixing. The 2 stack marker and the 3 stack marker will now need to fill the gaps for the used players and ensure there are 2 players in each of alpha, beta and gamma's corners after the first towers and the room cleave are done. The system we used to solve this was the 2 stack looks clockwise and goes to the first fill required, and the 3 stack looks counterclockwise and goes to the first fill required. As an example, say alpha and beta mixed. After the long cleave, alpha, beta, gamma with the long debuff will go to their corners, and the unused short gamma will also go back to their corner. 2 stack will look clockwise, see alpha was used and go to alpha. 3 stack will look counterclockwise, see gamma was not used, skip it and go to beta. The 2 players that have already done a tower can go to northwest and chill. Next up, 4 towers will spawn, and you will have 6 players with 3 element colours each. 4 players will be used. If you were a long debuff and need to mix, go south and mix. If you were a short debuff or a stack and you need to go mix, go north and mix. Then take towers and dodge a second half arena cleave. The 4 players that have no job can just dodge the half room cleave. One very important thing to bear in mind is that during high concept, you do not want to touch other players unless you intend on mixing with them. If you accidentally merge, you can cause a failure state and insta-wipe the group, so just don't do that. After this, Deconceptualize will remove all debuffs from players and another raid-wide will cast, followed by 3 auto attacks. Soon, Limitless Desolation will cast. Have the healers and tanks spread on the left side of the arena, and the DPS spread on the right side of the arena. 1 support player and 1 DPS player will be hit by an AoE, giving them a fire resistance down and a tower will spawn. The player will need to take the tower that spawned alongside them receiving a hit, but be aware not to move into it too soon, as you're going to drop a large AoE puddle on the ground shortly before the tower goes off. Stand on one of the squares next to the tower, then when the AoE puddle spawns, move into your tower. This is going to happen 4 times on each side for 8 total debuffs and 8 total towers. Make sure you take the correct tower that spawned alongside your fire vuln, so 3rd hit take 3rd tower and so on so forth. After this, come back to middle for the upcoming raid damage, boss autos and tank buster. Soon, a 2nd natural alignment is going to cast, but this time there is a little wrinkle to how it works. It's possible that alongside the natural alignment debuff, you are also going to receive an inverse buff, or even 2. If this is the case, you must resolve the stack spread or fire ice in the opposite order to what is displayed. During the stack and spread mechanic, the beams from the side of the arena will happen too, so you need to deal with it in a slightly different way. We sent the 2 natural alignment players to the edge on their side, so tank and healers go left, DPS go right, and the rest of the players will spread along the safe row in advance of the mechanic. Then, if it's spread first, the group already knows their positions and is ready for it. If it's stack first, you stack and then spread back into those positions that you telegraphed earlier. Bear in mind, the safe row changes between the two mechanics just like before. Afterwards, fire and ice happens once again exactly the same as before, but there's the possibility of it being reversed in order. Once fire and ice have been resolved, dodge the half room cleave from the boss. This is all followed up by another raid damage, tank auto attacks and another buster. Next up, a second high concept will cast. Mitigate heavily as before. This high concept is conceptually fairly similar to the first, but with a twist. You need to mix and create Phoenix before the end of the mechanic to progress to the final phase of the encounter. Let's break it down. 2 alpha players merging will create 2 Ifrits. 2 Ifrits combined with 2 winds will create 4 Phoenix Feathers. 4 Phoenix Feathers will create Phoenix. Time for a little alchemy. If you are short alpha beta gamma, you once again go to your marker. If you are one of the 2 totally unmarked players, go and join short alpha in their corner. If you are the yellow 2 stack marker, you will go to the 2 marker once more. And if you are the new red 1 stack marker, you go to the 3 marker. Both of those players will also have a long alpha beta or gamma buff, but there will be a third alpha beta gamma buff with a long duration that has no stack icon. That player will go and stand with the yellow 2 stack. Once all of these mechanics explode, the 2 unmarked players will move center north and merge to create 2 Ifrits. Ifrit applies a constant dot to the player, so healers beware. 2 towers will spawn, and a half room cleave will happen once again in the same way as in High Concept 1. The short alpha beta gamma players can merge and deal with the towers as needed whilst dodging the cleave. After the cleave, the 2 Ifrits and the 2 players that have resolved towers will go to the northwest of the arena and relax for a little bit. The long alpha, beta and gamma will go to their markers and get ready for their explosions. The unused of the alpha, beta and gamma is also going to go back to their original corner. Once these second pops go off, the 2 Ifrits are going to move to the north and south of the arena, and the 2 players that took the first towers will go to west and east. Stand near the wall and you're going to see 4 adds, 1 on each cardinal. Shortly they're going to tether to you, and when they do, move clockwise with them to the next corner that you find, and then walk in directly 1 square away from the edge. This will bait the beams from the adds away from the center of the arena. At the same time, the long alpha, beta, gamma and the unused buff from earlier will have 4 towers to deal with in the middle of the arena. Mix with the other colours and take the towers. After this, you will have 2 Ifrits and 2 winds, as well as 2 of an additional colour. Have 1 Ifrit and 1 wind just to the left of the boss's target line, and the other Ifrit and wind just to the right of the boss's target line, and let them merge. It's very important to fully top all players for Phoenix here, as not being topped will result in instant death. The boss will begin to cast Ego Death and become targetable once again, and all 8 players will obtain the concept of Phoenix and avoid the instant death mechanic, obtaining a double damage buff in the process. If you are using DPS LB, make sure you use it by this point in the fight and not after. The final phase is very simple but very hard hitting. The boss will cast Iron Agonia, which is a heavy raid damage that applies a damage over time and also gives the boss a damage up. Then the boss will cast Dominion, which is a heavy raid damage and spread mechanic, and this also gives the boss an additional damage up. 4 players will then be hit with an Earth Resistance down debuff, 2 support players and 2 DPS, and 2 moving cracks under the arena on each side will spawn and begin to move. Once again, have tanks and healers go left and DPS go right. Follow the towers before taking them as they spawn out of the ground. Then, the 4 players that originally got the Earth Resistance down will then swap with them and take a second set of 4 towers in the exact same manner. Following this, come back to the center, and the sequence will repeat with another dot raid damage, another spread raid damage, and 2 more sets of 4 towers. Finally, the boss will cast 1 more dot raid damage and begin casting Enrage. I hope this guide was at least a little bit helpful in helping you progress and clear P8S. I would love to hear about your success stories in the comments section, and if you are watching this video on release, check back in the video description in a day or two, because I plan on putting together a working party finder macro for this encounter, and if you find it useful at all, please use it. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day, and good luck in the fight.